We've already discussed that one of the greatest keys of hoodoo is healing. And when it comes to healing, it takes a lot of accountability. Now, again, this involves actually looking at your habits, looking at your lifestyle, looking at your family's habits, looking at your family's lifestyles, and actually determining where things can be changed at. How is this benefiting me? How is this not benefiting me? Well, in this video, we're going to discuss not only femininity, but healing our femininity to the point to where we actually understand exactly what it is, because I don't really feel like a lot of us understand exactly what femininity is or how femininity works. So let's get in. Peace, everybody. It is your coquette occultist, Prophetess Eve, and I'm back with another video. Today, we're going to continue dabbling into the keys of hoodoo, and we're going to actually make this very exclusive to the hoodoo woman. If you are a worker, if you're a sorceress, if you're a witch, if you're whatever you call yourself, and you work with feminine archetypes or you work with feminine spirits, especially spirits surrounding love, surrounding sex, surrounding beauty, the attributes of this spirit is going to influence you to the point to where you're going to want to be a very beautiful person. You're going to want to, benefit from pretty privilege and social climbing and just being at the top, because that is something that a lot of these spirits require. And I say that to say this. As we discussed in my last video on generational curse breaking, which you can find right here, we discussed how every movement is not conducive for every culture, meaning it's certain movements that we as Black women, we as hoodoos partake in that is causing more harm than it is healing. And a lot of us are not realizing that we are causing more harm to the bloodline than we are healing, because we're too busy trying to fit into social trends than actually removing ourselves from the world and tapping more into spirit. Okay. You cannot be a daughter of Jezebel. You cannot work with Jezebel spirits and think that you're not about to be looking good. And I'm not saying this in terms of she's just going to make you beautiful. No, this is a form of glamour magic. Working with these spirits is a form of glamour magic. It's a form of beauty magic. It's a form of love magic, even for yourself. So certain things are going to be required of you where you can't have a, well, other women do it mindset, or you can't have a, well, that's not fair mindset. Newsflash, sweetheart, nothing in life is fair. And when dealing with spirits and going along a spiritual journey and trying to tap into glamour magic, and in my opinion, glamour magic is a form of left hand path magic, and we'll get into that later, especially if you're utilizing certain spirits. You have to be able to appease these spirits, because they're not requiring these things just so that you can look good. They're requiring these things to appease themselves. A lot of these spirits are not going to let just anybody walk with them or say their name or call on them. They're not just going to work with anybody just because that's what you want. You have to be a certain type of a woman in order to attract a certain type of a spirit, or to allow a certain spirit to work with you. And if that spirit decides to work with you, then you're going to have to do your part to keep up with that spirit, not just in terms of altar maintenance and invocations and evil. No, how you keep up with yourself, and just keeping it honest with you. Some of y'all just need to stick with the Lama Dama. Some of y'all got to stick with the Big Mama spirits. A lot of you, once you get into that, us as hoodoos, we can't have a woe is me mindset. A lot of Black women walk in the mindset of a victim very, very bad. You cannot have that mindset and prosper in the field of hoodoo. You just cannot. Not as a hoodoo woman, not as someone who is going to intercede for people, not as someone who is going to do work for people. Like I said before, if you have not done the work for yourself and for your own bloodline, you are in no position to try and charge anybody or give anybody advice. You are in no position. When we go into femininity, we're going into And I feel like a lot of women, especially black women, don't quite understand what femininity is. And they kind of like compare it with just how you look. When it's deeper than how you look, it's deeper than the makeup, it's deeper than the hair. It goes into how one speaks, it goes into the grace and the class and the tact and the couth that a woman has. It goes into knowing how to carry yourself when you get into certain places. It goes into understanding what beauty is inside out. If changing who you are, which is essentially a form of shape shifting, especially when you're able to do it in different rooms around different people, just conforming who you are, how you manipulate, and the routes in which you go, which is also a form of seduction. I invite every hoodoo to read The Art of Seduction. Find out what type of a seducer are you so that you know how to seduce, so that you know what it is that you're supposed to do to achieve the manifestations and the things that you want to do. When you have a mindset of, oh, I ain't got to do all of that, or you shouldn't have to do all of that in order for this to happen, you are literally cutting your magic short. You're cutting your magic short. You're not special and you're definitely not exempt. That's why you're the loudest one screaming about what the nigga will and won't do. That's why you're the loudest one screaming about black women not having representation, jobs, the economy, blah, blah, blah. We don't look at our habits. We don't look at our financial literacy. We don't look at the way we carry ourselves and the things that we say and the things that we even speak over ourselves spiritually. We don't look at this. You should be able to walk into any room and conform that room to you. I'm so irritated because I recorded so much content and the sound didn't capture because of the freaking mic. Anyway, a lot of women, especially black women, you guys suffer from the spirit of misery. I hate to say it, but it's true. A lot of us, since we have a woe is me mindset, we don't really tap into the realm of healing. We tap into the realm of validation. You know what I'm saying? So what it is that we do, how the spirit of misery works is the spirit of misery can't sit with itself. The spirit of misery hates to be alone. When the spirit of misery is alone, then doubt creeps in, and shame and guilt creeps in, and insecurity creeps in, and all these things begin to creep in, and it drives the spirit of misery insane. It can make them depressed. So what they do is they go out and they start searching for people who have likeness in trauma. So what they do is they trauma bond with people. This is whether it's romantic or platonic. You know what I'm saying? They trauma bond with people, and they're trauma bonding, and they're coming up with these ideas like, hey, it happened to me and it happened to you, so it must happen to every other woman. A person who deals with the spirit of misery cannot see healing because the healing never happened for them. So therefore, they can never perceive that healing happening to other people, or they can't even perceive another woman not walking the same exact walk. So what most black women do who operate out of the spirit of misery is, because every woman that they subject themselves around, because that is what they're doing, every woman that they subject themselves around goes through the same exact shit they go through, because all they do is pass around the same poopies and ray-rays, from different hoods all over the place. Thus, no growth is taking place. No one is becoming a better bitch. We all chasing the same type of a nigga. We're all convincing ourselves and each other that it's their issue and not ours. And when we get in the presence of another woman, another black woman in particular, who doesn't quite act like you, who doesn't quite speak like you, who doesn't quite, carry herself the same way you do, and she says, hey, my experience in society and life is different. The first thing that a black woman who deals with the spirit of misery says is, oh, you a pick me. Oh, bitch, you ain't the only one. Oh, bitch, it's going to happen to you too. Just wait. Like, I had an older black woman who was 53 years old who was telling me, oh, I'm single and I choose to be single. I don't need no man, blah, 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 blah. And I told her, I was like, well, what advice do you have for a 27-year-old black woman who's married and happy? She said, oh, you 27, you still young. You gonna find out one day. And I said, that's really messed up. I said, because what you're saying is the end goal for all black women is to be old, single, and lonely. And before y'all start screaming and saying, people choose to be single. People choose to be a woman that chooses to be single is not sitting online complaining about what a nigga will and won't do for her. And mind you, most of the time, the women who do most of the complaining are also women who aren't really worth much to begin with. Just because you are a woman does not mean you are worth what it is that you are requesting. You have to become that. And black women who have not tapped into their magic, black women who don't even know how this magic works or how their magic works, will tell other black women, you ain't got to do nothing because a nigga gonna regardless.
Sweetheart, please, okay? Because what you're essentially saying is, I'm still having sex with the same exact men that I'm complaining about. So I'm going to complain about them and still have sex with them and still make kids with them. It makes no sense. When you find yourself doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, expecting different results, it's called insanity. But see, what we have done was we convinced ourselves that marriage is no longer needed. Our kids don't need a daddy. And you can do it all by yourself. Everybody don't want to be a wife. I'm sorry, that don't fly in hoodoo. We every movement, the way you see other women and other people doing is not, and I'm speaking specific to the Black American community. We can't do what everybody doing. You know, our African cousins who's coming over here and they're like, yeah, F our men. I understand. Over there in Africa, they be getting dogged out, baby. A nigga would never over here. I'm sorry. Black women, we put our hands on men. They would never even think twice. I'm sorry. It's just not happening the way it's happening over there. So I understand why those women hate their men. But what we need to stop doing is tagging on to other people's movements as if it's ours and focus on our own community and our own healing. Our strife and our issues with each other is different. And what we're doing is we're leeching on to other people's movement and bringing it into our own, and it's causing confusion. But see, a feminine woman has true discernment and can read through the spirits and the curses that are at bay, because she is still enough to allow spirits to flow so where she's able to receive information. You can't do that when your energy is chaotic, sis. Right now, Black women, we're supposed to be focusing on ourselves. Again, that entire, oh, you don't have to do much. You ain't got, a person shouldn't have to get pretty. A person shouldn't have to work out. A person shouldn't have to prioritize their health to get ahead in society and to get better connections and better relationships, whether platonic or romantic. A person shouldn't have to do that. Let me express something to you. Throw that out the window. That's laziness. It's pure laziness, because the same exact women who say this are the same exact women who's sitting up complaining about what a nigga won't do. Sitting up complaining about what their baby daddy won't do, even though you knew he wasn't before you decided to lay down with him and even give him a baby. Are the same women complaining about representation. The same women complaining about all types of things, but yet you're literally aiding in the stereotypes that are set against us. It makes no sense. It's literally confusing. And it's upsetting for me to see a bunch of potentially queens and goddesses act like such hyenas. What we have to do as hoodoos is tap back into our femininity, not just our motherhood, but our familyhood. What is the purpose and the source of family? Just because you as an adult have gone through your trauma with men, you know, and you don't see the purpose in the man, okay, that's your business. But when you decide to bring a child in it, you know, you got to put those childish thoughts to the side and put your big girl panties on and start thinking in terms of a woman, in terms of a wife, in terms of a mother. Every child deserves a two-parent happy household. And before y'all get in my comments talking about, well, all relationships don't work. When you say that, that means you're automatically going into relationships with the mindset that that's not going to work. You're supposed to go into the relationship with the mindset of growing, with the mindset of mutual growing and being mutual goal-minded before you bring a child into the picture. Oh, well, the kids get here and we decide we're not going to work out. Funny how that's always the case. Funny. So what you're saying is you weighed these options. What you're saying is this man was amazing. What you're saying was he did have a pot to piss in the window to throw it out of. And he did have money. He did have a car. And when you had the baby, he just lost it all. So what you're saying is we did work out. We did go to therapy. We did try everything. We did everything we could. And we had the baby. And decided it didn't. No, that's not how things go. Okay, we got to start having honest conversations with each other as women, as Black women, and start actually having conversations about how did you become the 4th and 5th baby mama. Let's talk about how it happened so that you can have this conversation with other young Black girls so that they don't make the same mistakes we did. Let's talk about how you had a revenge baby. Let's talk about how you're a side chick and you got pregnant. Let's have these conversations, because I'm starting to see a lot of women become victims right after a baby is born. You're not the victim. The child is. You owe it to that child to be a better woman. Regardless of if the man is there or not, you owe it to that child to be a feminine woman, especially if you have a daughter. Even if you have a son, because he deserves to know what a true feminine woman looks like so that he knows what to attract.